Hi, everyone. Melody here from Learning in Progress, and I'm here to share with you the second free webinar I've given in my new series, Teachers Learn Too. If you're new to this series, every month I host a free webinar that's open to all educators, administrators, instructional coaches, and I teach some ideas on a given teaching topic. This month, we focused on differentiation. Stay tuned and let's learn together. So here you can see our topic for today, which is differentiation in both a socially distanced classroom or a virtual learning environment. And we focused on how we can keep those great small groups even though we have to stay apart. So a little bit about me. For those of you that haven't met me yet or you're new to Learning in Progress, I am a K-6 teacher. I have taught both primary grades and upper grades with various leadership roles. You name the educational position, I've probably had it. So I'm here to share with you my experience and tidbits of things I've learned throughout my journey. I've been an intervention specialist. I'm currently an ed tech mentor. I like to call myself a differentiation enthusiast, and I have been fortunate enough to present at both local and national conferences on how to differentiate in any classroom. So here we went over at the start of every one of my webinars. Again, these are live using Zoom. At the start of every webinar, I go over our norms. And I do want to take this time and encourage you to check out my Nearpod Intro to Virtual Meetings lesson. This lesson is meant for students. So those of you that are teaching in a virtual world right now, I encourage you to really emphasize expectations and Zoom or Google Meet norms before you dive into instruction. In this recording of this webinar, we will focus on 3 objectives. 1, we're going to learn how to differentiate in both synchronous learning and asynchronous learning. 2, we are going to differentiate using Nearpod and digital choice boards. I will be walking you through both processes. And last but not least, I will give you some ideas on how you can continue small group rotations even though your students have to stay in their seats. Now, those of you that watched my webinar from August, and if you haven't, don't worry, the recording is still up. I did go over what makes a successful virtual learning environment. Now, when you're using Nearpod in your classroom, there are 2 main ways for your students to access the lesson. One is to have a split screen, Zoom and Nearpod. And this, of course, is used for synchronous learning. So when you want to be in a Zoom, Google Meet, Microsoft Teams meeting for live instruction with your students, this is one of your options. A second option is to actually use 2 different devices. Now, I recommend this option if your students are younger or if you're using it for math instruction. The reason I recommend this is with an iPad or a tablet, your students are able to grab a stylus or even their finger, and they can actually mimic the process of writing. This is most comfortable when students are solving complex math problems. So upper grade teachers, I'm talking to you for this one, middle school you as well. When you want to see your students work and you don't want to have to make them take a snapshot or a photo of their notebook, because those of us who have been in a virtual world for a while, we know it's not always easy to read pencil markings on a screen. So this would be the option for you. They can go ahead, solve their math problems on a Nearpod lesson, on an iPad, and then you will be able to see it in real time or after the lesson is complete. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show you how to assign a Nearpod lesson. There is more than one way to do so, and I'm going to walk you through those ways right now. All right, so this is a peek into my Nearpod lesson library, and you can see that I've separated one of my new lessons. It's going to be posted within the next week or so. But I'm going to use this lesson as an example today. Now, this lesson, which focuses on learning how to write numbers 1 through 5, has 3 options, just like the other Nearpod options. So you can see live participation in Zoom, live participation, and student paced. And you will see these 3 buttons on any Nearpod lesson in your library. You'll notice that the buttons that are in blue are meant for synchronous learning, whether that means you're online during a virtual meeting or in person and you're all completing the lesson simultaneously. These options are for you. If you're looking to assign a Nearpod lesson for students to complete on their own, that means they're going from slide to slide, perhaps listening to instructions. They might be watching some instructional videos. The orange button, Student Paced, is going to be the option that you will want. So I'm going to go ahead and pretend like I'm starting a live participation lesson with Zoom. Now, what's so great that's new this year, and I know those of you that watched my last webinar, you heard me talk about this a little bit. But Nearpod has embedded Zoom links right into the lesson. Every teacher is shouting from the rooftops. This is wonderful news. So let me walk you through how to use this great feature. I went ahead and clicked that button, and here you can see the code. Those of us that have used Nearpod before, we're very familiar. This is the code that students will type into the Nearpod website. You actually don't need this code. You can start a Zoom meeting, create your Zoom meeting, and this single link right here can be used to open up Zoom and Nearpod at the same time. So this is great to make life easier on your students and families so that they're not juggling multiple links for every lesson. This is also ideal for younger students. Trust me, I've been a kinder first grade teacher. The less, the better. It is really difficult to get our young ones to click on a link. Let's have them click one link and both items will open at the same time. Now, I do want to mention there are a variety of ways for you to share this information. I happen to click on link because we'll be using this later when I go over digital choice boards. However, you can also share it directly to your Google Classroom. There's a new Microsoft Teams option, as well as these other great ways to share the link with your families. All right, so we're back on Nearpod, and you can see here I did another poll. I wanted to find out at the start of the webinar what attendees' comfort levels were in terms of differentiation. And you can see the majority of attendees chose B or C. C is I'm new to differentiation. I want to differentiate in my classroom, but I'm struggling with managing how to do it in an effective way. And trust me, I hear you. I happen to love differentiated instruction. I differentiate everything, but that is not where I started. Okay. If we went back in time 5 years ago, I was right here. I knew differentiation was so beneficial for my students. I knew it was the only way to truly meet the needs of my unique learners. But I was struggling. I don't know if any of you have heard this analogy, but I kind of live by it. I think it describes teaching. If you've ever seen a duck on a pond, the top part is calm, cool, and collected. And then underneath, they're like paddling away and like just trying to stay afloat. That is where I was at 5 years ago. I'm here to share with you what I have learned and action steps I've taken to make differentiating manageable and effective in your classroom, no matter if you're in person, socially distanced, or in a virtual world. So let's start by asking ourselves, what is differentiated instruction? Now, I want to point the screen out to you because I started with an open-ended question. And this is often how I start my lessons with my own students. I wanted to find out what their prior knowledge was on the subject. So I got some great answers. Of course, these are all passionate educators who came out to join me during my live webinar. So words that stuck out: scaffolding, leveled learning, student choice, student ownership. These provided a valuable starting point for me, and it guided my instruction throughout the webinar. Now, what's great about using this type of activity is you can see these buttons here, share. When I do this with my students, we love celebrating our victories as a class. So if I find an exemplar response, I click share and it automatically pops up on the screens of all of my students. They do not, I repeat, they do not have to be in the same room as you. So if you're in a virtual classroom right now and all students are learning at home, this is an ideal way to share an exemplar student response so that students, one, can celebrate each other's successes, and two, they can see what responses are meeting and exceeding your expectations as their teacher. So this is my definition that I'd like to share with you. And I want us to keep this definition in mind for this recording. 1, differentiated instruction is what we learn, and 2, it's how we learn it. The question we will be answering today: how can we apply differentiated instruction into a socially distanced classroom and a virtual learning environment? So first, I want to address some do's and don'ts of differentiated learning. A big don't: do not skip grade level standards. Trust me, I've been an intervention specialist. I know what it's like to have a group of students that are 3, 4, sometimes 5 grade levels behind. This is perhaps the most challenging part of being a teacher. We need to fill in those learning gaps, but we cannot, I repeat, we cannot take away their exposure to grade level standards. What we can do is scaffold lessons, so we can target the most essential standards. What learning targets are essential for our kids to master before they go to the next grade level? Those essential standards will scaffold so that our learners, even our lowest of learners, have the opportunity to accomplish those goals. Another don't of differentiated instruction is assigning more to gifted students. And I know that it is a very easy to do, right? These are the kids that are like, Miss R, I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. 2 seconds after you've given one example and these students have mastered it and probably applied it to the rest of whatever activity you're doing. I understand. We want to make sure that we are giving them more rigorous problems, not simply increasing the number of problems they do. So again, overall, we are providing rigorous education that starts at the unique level of each learner, and we are focusing on quality rather than quantity. All right, so this part of the presentation, we are focusing on the first aspect of differentiated learning, what we learn. Now here you can see this is an example from my long vowels unit. I have a differentiated unit that targets long vowel sounds. For each of the long vowels, I have 4 levels. And here you can see an example of 4 levels from my long A lessons. In the upper right corner, I'll show you with my mouse right here. This is for the red group. Now, as outlined in all of my differentiated lessons, the red group is my intervention group. These are the kids that are far behind grade level. They need to learn some foundational skills before they can access grade level standards on their own. Now, this particular lesson is targeting first grade standards. But you can see here that even though all 4 levels target that same long A sound, that same first grade standard, you can see that there are 4 unique difficulty levels. The next one takes away that helpful hand, the start and ending sounds. It takes that away, and this is for my orange group. My orange group is comprised of students that perhaps need a reteach often. So they're just below grade level. They often need to be exposed to new content multiple times before they can independently master that skill. Here, this would be my at grade level kids. We are hoping that they are able to spell the word rain on their own. They can already identify ain. They know there are 3 sounds, and in this lesson, they're learning that the A is made up of 2 letters. Then you have your blue group right down here, our gifted friends. So they can already master spelling the word rain is going to come quickly to these friends. We now want them to work on spelling a 2-syllable word that uses that target sound. For instance, rain, drop, raindrop. This is ideal for your gifted kiddos because now they have something where they have to work at it. It's a challenge. It's intriguing to them. It's not so easy that they get bored and finish right away. Now, on the screen, you can see that it's asking me as the teacher, since I'm the host of this webinar, it's asking me if I want every device to hear the audio. If you are in a virtual world, yes, you want to click on all devices. Now, in this particular example, I have recorded all of the instructions. All of my long vowel and CVC word lessons include these audio recordings. That way, if you want to assign them during asynchronous learning, students will be able to successfully complete the lesson on their own. Now you can see here, and again, this is my teacher screen. You can see that I gave participants a chance to actually complete this lesson, this activity, I should say. So they could either use text, like this person here, or they could use a pen tool, like some of these participants did. Now at this time, I could actually share out some example students' work. And again, this is a great way to celebrate student successes and to deliver the answer to the other kids so they can see what the correct spelling was. I want to point out as well, and this, oh my gosh, is an awesome classroom management feature. You can see what students are still working. Now here, for example, right here, it says in progress. So you can actually see students working in real time. So as the student takes away or adds to their slide, we as teachers have access to that information. That way, if there's a student, for instance, this student has not submitted anything yet. So I might give them a reminder on Zoom. Hey, Susie, I can't see your work yet. You have 45 seconds left. Having said that, those of you that watched my last webinar, exact times are critical. So actually tell your kids things like, you have 35 seconds. It gives them a sense of urgency, even if they don't really have a clear understanding what 35 seconds is. If you play music on my phone, for instance, if you play on your phone, they will learn what 30 seconds feels like. Now, this is just another example. This would be the activity for gifted students. The ones that are above grade level, they need a challenge. So this is breaking apart a word and writing the word raindrop. Now, I want to stop and point out, because I get a question quite often on my blog and in my TPT store. Teachers are looking for ways to assess spelling, even though we're socially distanced or even though we're in a virtual learning world right now. This is a great way to do it. You can put a picture image, or even you could just say the word out loud over Zoom, Google Meet, and your students will spell it. This is a great way to do differentiated spelling assessments. Give each group a unique spelling lesson where they can solve one or two syllable words. All right, so now I want to mention some differentiated passages. And those of you, I'm talking to you primary teachers, differentiated passages are a great way to do morning work, lesson warm-ups, and even assessments if you want to hear your kiddos read. In my Nearpod lessons, again, the differentiated long vowel sounds is what I'm focusing on here. I have written 4 leveled passages for each sound. This is an example of the long A. So you can see here is my red group, my intervention group. Orange are the kiddos that are near grade level. Green, they're at grade level. And blue, they need a challenge. They are gifted. So here you can see that it's not just the length of the passage. So I didn't just give blue group more. Now, the passage is longer to help them with their fluency goals. But if you can see, and I know it's kind of small, but if you notice, the words that are included are also more challenging. So again, it's not just the quantity, it is the quality of the work. Some of these sounds in these passages are phonics skills that they haven't learned yet. But since they're above grade level, I would like them to use their comprehension skills to make inferences about the words that they haven't learned to decode yet. It's a great challenge and a good opportunity for our kids that are above grade level. Now here, and I do this is how I do my reading instruction. So especially if you're looking for a way to virtually do small reading groups, or if you're in a classroom, it's heartbreaking for me to think that I can't do my small group reading lessons. This is a way that you can safely do so. The students stay at their desk, you're at your teacher desk or in front of the class, however your classroom layout is, and you're able to see and even hear them if you're using Zoom in your classroom. I recommend having the kids highlight the target sounds first. And that's what we did here in the webinar. You can see that participants were able to highlight those words or underline them. And again, looking at my teacher screen, you can see here that you have the ability to share out. So if I wanted to share this student's work, who did a great job identifying the long A sound, I could share it here, and all of my students, even if they're learning at home, they all would be able to see this on their screen. Now, something that I have found to be very helpful when I was teaching online to my little ones in the spring was I can see errors and misconceptions in real time. So for instance, if I noticed that a lot of students were highlighting short A words, that would trigger a mini lesson where we talked about what short A sounds like and long A sounds like. And this, just an example, is the blue group. Again, I mentioned that earlier, so I'll just kind of move to the next slide here. But same activity, different level. All right, so upper grade teachers, I haven't forgotten about you. Upper grade teachers, you know what I'm talking about. Fractions are tough. Oh my goodness. I have taught 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, and 6th grade. And in every single grade level, fractions by far are the most challenging thing to teach. We are trying to take something very abstract and make it concrete. Visual models, step-by-step scaffolding, and opportunities to apply those skills are critical for students understanding this material. Here you can see 2 levels. 1, this is dividing fractions. Okay, 5th and 6th grade teachers, you know this is tough stuff. They might be able to use the reciprocal, but they don't actually understand what they're solving. So when we get to those multi-step word problems, they're lost. Here is a way that we can prevent that confusion in the future. So here you can see this is my scaffolded lesson for the learners that are below grade level or they need to be exposed to that material multiple times. So in my Nearpod lesson, I did step-by-step activities. So rather than telling them solve 2/3 divided by 1/4 using an area model, I had 3 slides. Step 1, only complete step 1. Step 2, only complete step 2. And step 3, only complete steps 3. That way they're not focused on so many steps that they get overwhelmed. And then on the other side of things, the kids that get it right away, they're ready to move on. They don't need to go over every step for every single problem. Here you can see this is a word problem. So they might get the step-by-step activity one time, and then the rest of the lesson are application problems or them showing that they understand all 3 steps of the given math skill. So again, here you can see I wanted participants to get a feel. So on their own screens, they were solving, they were coloring in, just kind of getting a feel for the tools that were available at the bottom of their screen. And here's that example of a word problem. Now, if you are going to take one thing away from this, use Nearpod as a way to give students digital scratch paper. You can see here, because I was just giving time for the attendees to kind of play around with the tools. You can see here that students, or participants in this case, were able to use it as digital scratch paper using text features, pen tools, highlighters. This is an awesome way to do online assessments. So at the start of this school year, or even back in the spring when schools first closed, my biggest concern, especially as an intervention specialist, was how am I going to see concrete evidence of if my students are getting what I'm teaching them? Multiple choice is fine. Submitting a one answer response is okay. Turning in pictures is all right. But I want to see them actually solve these problems in front of me. This is the way to do it. If you're going to use one thing from this recording, use this. It's going to help your online math instruction. I do want to point out that another way to use this is for quizzes and tests. So all you have to do is type in the problem at the top of your screen like you see here, and that's it. The students will just use it in whatever way they can to solve the problem. And you as the teacher will see it in real time. All of these reports, whether you do asynchronous Nearpod or synchronous, they are all located in your lesson library, and they will save so that you have that concrete evidence for sharing with parents, colleagues, used for SST recommendations, anything that you need some evidence of learning. These are here for you. So this is about the halfway point. Now we're shifting gears into how we learn. So again, differentiation is what we learn. It's how we learn it. Let's focus on giving students an increase in ownership and including student choice into our lessons. Now here you can see this is a unit that I did with my kinderoos. So my little ones, kinder teachers, your turn. So these lessons here all focused on addition and subtraction, which anyone that's taught kinder can vouch. This is a huge skill, a very important skill in our kindergarten classes. So this, of course, was a huge unit. It wasn't just like a a one and done, right? 1 week and we've mastered adding. This is something that we took our time on. And I exposed the kindergartners, my kinders, to different ways to add and subtract. We worked on using pictures and counting. We worked on drawing pictures. We worked on writing math sentences using number bonds. These lessons are all included in the webinar bundle that I will show you at the end of this presentation. They are also included in a choice board. So after I taught every one of these skills to my class, we would be using choice boards so that they could then reflect. And yes, I know they're little, but they can reflect on their thinking. So I give them the opportunity to practice and think, which way worked best for me? Do I like to draw pictures? Does it help me to count? Am I good with numbers? Do I want to practice writing number sentences? Let me show you the choice board that I created so that you can see what you'll get in the webinar bundle so that your kids can have some choice as far as how they learn and how they show what they've learned. So this is my Kinder Choice board, and you can see I already created some pre-made choice boards for you, as well as included an editable one. So all of these boxes here are editable. I just gave you some examples. Now, when you get this choice board from my TPT store, I want to show you how you can customize it so that you can use it for your specific needs. Every one of these options has a transparent box. So let's say that I wanted to set up small group learning centers, right? Small group rotations. This is what I would use if I was in a socially distanced classroom or in a virtual classroom. So my red group, I would want them to do 3 things during our literacy block. 1, our technology lesson. So this would probably be our Nearpod lesson. 2, meet with the teacher. And 3, some kind of writing activity. So this could be a Google Doc. This could be something on Seesaw that you've posted. This could be something on paper that they've printed or that you've printed for them. So all you have to do is click on the box, click on hyperlink, and then post the lesson to the online platform. It could be the Nearpod lesson link, the one we went over earlier. Anything that will help them so that when they click, they are redirected to whatever activity you want them to finish. Now, I do want to mention this. So for me, I put this in because this is exactly what I do with my kids. I still want those small group instructional minutes. Okay, so even though my kids can't gather around the table with me due to safety reasons, I want to be able to have a small group lesson with them. So what I would do is I would actually post or connect this image and link it to my Zoom meeting. So let's imagine we're in a classroom and the kinders, the first graders, they're spread out all over the classroom. They have to stay in their seat. I would open up a Zoom meeting on my screen and the kids would open this choice board and they would say, you know what, I'm in red group, so I start with this. They'd click, complete the lesson on their own, and then they come back to the choice board. Now I'm ready to meet the teacher. So they click on this and that link takes them to the Zoom meeting. We have our small group check-in, they go back to the choice board, and they go on to their next activity. This is how you can kind of spread out your groups so that you're not meeting with everyone at the same time. The other choice boards are exactly the same. You can see there are places to link. Now, these lessons are included in the webinar bundle that I'll share with you later. But these are the different ways that we can teach addition and subtraction to our little ones. I've got a choice board for my short vowels. I have some Nearpod CVC lessons that are available as well. So this would be a way that you can link them. And then here, let's say you're focusing, maybe you're introducing CVC words for the first time to your kinders, and you're focusing on the short A sound. Here's the reading lesson, link to reading lesson, link to writing lesson, and link to a decodable lesson, so that students can decide what they want to work on during those literacy centers. And this, of course, is editable so that you can change depending on what vowel sound you're learning. And again, here's some examples of how I turned these math activities into drawing activities so that I could see them in real time. Another example. All right, upper grade teachers, that same sense of choice is so important when we're learning math skills. This, of course, is emphasized for those of you that are in a Common Core state. This is emphasizing Common Core learning. We expose them to several different strategies, many of which are visual. Again, we're trying to change something abstract into something concrete. So what I've done is, again, I introduce my students to every strategy. We learn them together. There is a Nearpod lesson for these various strategies for equivalent fractions, adding and subtracting fractions, and then also dividing fractions. I also include some traditional approaches, like this one, using multiplication to find equivalent fractions. After I've taught all of these strategies for the given skill, I then have my students start to reflect which one works best for my learning style. I've created a choice board for these type of fractions lessons as well. Again, this one is editable. I just put some examples. Feel free to change out the images to meet your needs. So this is just like the kinder one I showed you. This is an example of how you can manage small group centers in an upper grade classroom. So all of my differentiated lessons for upper grade math can be divided into these 5 groups. Square, my intervention kiddos. Triangle, near grade level. Trapezoid, they're right at grade level, maybe just a smidgen below, in that often they need to be exposed to the lesson more than once, but they are ready to access said grade level standards. Circle, they are at grade level, but they are fast learners. They need one lesson and then they're ready to practice independently. Diamond, gifted students. They are above grade level. They need application problems. They need a challenge, and they're ready to learn even the next year's grade level. So these are the ones that really need that extra challenge. And then I made choice boards for individual units that I have. So I have one bundle that targets equivalent fractions using fraction bars, multiplication, and then a review of both. Another one, adding and subtracting fractions. So again, kids are choosing exactly what skill they're going to be working on. This would be a great way to help your students practice for an upcoming quiz or assessment. Dividing fractions, 3 ways to learn it: number lines, area model, fraction bars. And all of these lessons have brief instructional videos where I actually walk the students through every one of these strategies. And then, of course, this one is everything fractions. So if you're really trying to create an independent activity or something where students are guided through step by step, these are in order: modeling equivalent fractions using multiplication, reviewing both strategies, like fractions, adding unlike fractions, subtracting unlike fractions, and going into division. I have found this type of choice board to be best suited, especially for students that are either at or above grade level, because if they're ready for the next lesson, they can go ahead and continue. They don't need to feel stifled because the rest of the class is not quite there yet. So again, this is a drawing activity where students actually color in the amount of boxes to show that the fraction is equivalent. This is so critical, especially for your intervention kids. A lot of times when we see equivalent fractions, if you just look at the number, they have no idea it's the same amount of stuff. Multiplying doesn't really send them the message, and it doesn't help them understand it's the same amount. These fraction bars will help them to make that connection. So at this point in the webinar, I asked the attendees what their biggest takeaway was. I want you to reflect on what you've learned in the recording, and I want you to choose at least one thing, one or two takeaways. We are going to then narrow it down so that we can make an action step for your classroom. So this is a collaboration board, and I use this so often with my students, especially upper grade, middle school kids love this. It's an opportunity for them to show and share their ideas in an online learning environment. So I stopped here because I really want to show you this. This box right here. This is a must. Do you want to approve comments? Yes. Trust me, yes. That way you can see exactly what students have written before it goes on to the class board. You can check for school appropriateness. You can also check for completeness and correct answers depending on what your collaboration topic is. All right, now I want you to think about those takeaways that we talked about a moment ago. Make one action step. I have found as a teacher, even though, gosh, I love professional development. Like when I say I love it, I mean I love it. I look forward to it. But often after a workshop or a webinar, I feel a little exhausted. Like, how am I supposed to take all of these ideas and implement them tomorrow? My answer, you don't. You make two lists: do now, do later. I want you to think about your takeaways and think of one action step that you will commit to putting into your practice this week. All right, shopping time, my favorite. So I want to introduce you to 3 different bundles that I've put together, and they are differentiated, if you will. I wanted to make sure that you could get a bundle that suits your grade level and your specific classroom needs. So this bundle is meant for my kinder teachers. Also, if you're an intervention specialist, this is also something you'd be interested in. So it comes with all of my decodable Nearpod lessons, one per short vowel. It has those Kinder Choice boards that I showed you earlier in the presentation. And then it's got all 4. So I'm only showing 2 here, but it has all 4 of the addition and subtraction lessons. It is $30 for today only. It is September 19th. That price will last until September 20th. At that point, the price will go up. So if you're watching this right now, make sure that you order this before the price increase. All right, so Phonics. This bundle is really going to help you save time. As teachers, I can vouch for this myself. What we need most is more time. So these lessons have all been leveled for you. No prep. They are assignable whether you're in the classroom or at home learning in a virtual setting. This bundle comes with my differentiated, there are 2 levels in this. So differentiated consonant digraphs, Nearpod lessons, as well as my entire unit of long vowels. Now, this is a huge savings for today and tomorrow. Okay, so every one of these long vowel lessons comes with 4 levels: red, orange, green, and blue. They're all no prep. They're ready for you to assign. And then Phonics choice boards, I am posting those today, so coming soon if you're watching this recording immediately. All of this bundle you can get today and tomorrow only. $40. The price will go up significantly after that, but I wanted to make sure that you had access to all of these differentiated lessons. So I did put the price down significantly. Upper grade teachers, don't worry, I have something for you. This bundle is everything fractions, okay? So we have an equivalent fractions bundle, adding and subtracting fractions, differentiated division, dividing fractions, and then differentiated homework that's meant to go along with the equivalent fractions bundle. Today and tomorrow, it's $35 only. This is a significant savings. Starting September 21st, the price will increase, so get it while the getting is good. If you haven't done so already, I really encourage you to join our community. You can join my email list at learninginprogress.com. You'll receive updates, you'll receive news of my monthly blog posts, as well as information on upcoming webinars and giveaways. If you have any questions at all, feel free to email me. I am very quick to respond after class, of course. So in the evenings, sometimes on weekends. Feel free to reach out. I'm more than happy to help you get started on your Nearpod journey. And last but not least, I do want to encourage you, again, if you're watching the webinar, this recording on the 19th or the 20th, I am doing a $10 TPT gift card giveaway. There are so many ways that you can enter. So all those that attended my live webinar automatically get a raffle ticket. So they are entered into it. But if you weren't able to make it this time, there are other opportunities for you. You can get 2 raffle tickets, 3 raffle tickets, 4 raffle tickets, or 5, even though you weren't able to attend. Okay. All of that is on my blog. A few examples, you'll get 5 raffle tickets for every bundle you purchase. So any bundle from my TPT store, go ahead and write your name on the raffle copter entry form, and you will get 5 today and 5 tomorrow if you buy 2 bundles. You can also get some raffle tickets by subscribing to my blog at the bottom of my homepage, learninginprogress.com. Or if you tweet out anything about my blog, my free webinars, make sure that you tag me at learningnp, and you will get some raffle tickets as well. That concludes our webinar, or our recording of the webinar for this month. Thank you so much for joining me. I know how valuable a teacher's time is, and I truly appreciate you taking the time to watch. You are such an inspiration, taking time away from your busy schedule for the sole benefit of your students. I commend you, and I am inspired by you. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions, and I hope to see you at next month's webinar. Bye, everyone.